Let's take a further look at the GDP figures released by the NBS. Joining me now live from our studio in Abuja is a development economist, Professor Ken Ife. Professor Ken, thank you for joining me on the News at 10. What is your impression of the latest GDP?
Thank you for having me.
Great to have you here. What's your impression of the latest?
It's actually a good news.
Okay.
On many fronts, and there are so many components to this. One is that our economy is far more resilient than we all thought, and is far more diversified than we have all thought. First is the oil component of the GDP has consistently gone down from 9.5% to just over 5%. And at the same time, you have a very strong performance on the non-oil sector, rising to a contribution of about 95%. And the growth rate of the non-oil sector, gives us the confidence that if we do have exogenic shocks around the oil, as we always do when we go into recession, we are more resilient now that we are very, very unlikely to go into recession. That's one message. And if you look at the growth rate for the oil, it's just around -8. And then also when you look at agriculture, that's also particularly good news, because we've now seen agriculture, despite the conflict in all the 6 geopolitical zones, despite the fact that we are feeding 300 million people, not 200 million, because all the Francophone countries in Niger, in Chad, and all of that are heavily dependent on our grains. So despite all that, you still have agriculture outperforming the growth rate, the population growth rate, and matching the urbanization growth rate. So that's good news. So you see, it tells you how much effort has gone into agriculture from all these CBN intervention programs. Then if you look at the service sectors themselves, you see the ICT running neck to neck with retail, both at 15% contribution and at 5% growth rate. And even though in the whole of 2020, ICT has been around 15% growth, but now that it has come down, you also have to consider the impact it's having on all these other sectors. So the digital economy is helping drive growth in the financial sector. Of course, there is liquidity, including liquidity in the system, but it is actually helping drive growth in all other sectors. Transportation the reason why transportation is very high is because it was at the very lowest in 2020. It was over -34 and 36%, so it's grown. So there's a base effect in that. But I think I see more hope on what ICT is doing across the sectors.
Yeah, I noticed you did mention transportation, and it's listed as one of the fastest growing sectors of the economy. How is this measured?
Well, there are many components of transportation anyway. You have the road transportation, you have the aviation. Aviation we measure from the traffic and also the performance, the financial performance of, and that has actually shown a lot in the international travel. We have recovered, and about 60% recovery compared to the global recovery of about 40%. So our aviation is doing well, although there's an increase of passenger service charge from 1,000 to 2,000. But that notwithstanding, the cargo has kept up. It wasn't actually very much affected by the recession. So that also has big targets. So if you look at the development plan has given them something in the order of 50% increase in all the parameters used to measure their progress.
Yeah, and you talk about growth, and that's good news, to economists like yourself and to ordinary people. How do we sustain this so that we're also recording greater growth even at the next survey?
I know. I do expect. In fact, I was expecting Nigeria coming through with about 3%, and this has confounded all the projections. All the projections were around 2.6. World Bank, IMF 2.7, AFDB, even the government projection. It has confounded everybody. It's done far better than we all expected, and it's going to start on a good. This first quarter will probably be over 3%. So we can imagine when we finish at the end of the fourth quarter this year. Is really going to be an unstoppable momentum. But I have to tell you this. More people would have died of hunger and starvation in our country than all the COVID casualties and conflict put together if we did not attack agriculture the way it is being attacked with the CBN program. And also, there is also, as you saw, the programs that are rolling out, 100 for 100P targeting production and manufacturing, and then the new one of the $200 billion for over the next 3 to 5 years is coming to the level of export. So I think that's transformational. When you add this with the infrastructure company, they'll be floated with 1 trillion heading out to get 15 trillion. That's transformational. The things going on now are transformational. And they are not going into the gutter to fight the political economy of the various sections of the economy. No, it's creating new opportunities. Wherever you go, new opportunities. 4.5 million farmers getting credit with no collateral. 5.2 million hectares being farmed. That is the pyramid. That's just a tip of the iceberg. We are fighting and changing the course of our history and making us far more confident of our economic future in this country.
And hopefully that will be more evident, in the coming months. Development economist, Professor Ken Ife, thank you for speaking with us on the News at 10.
Thank you.